Hi everyone, welcome to this careers networking event. There's still people admitting. So this is in association with Kilburn Strode, which is one of the leading patent and trademark law firms within Europe. If any of you have been in any of our careers event previously, so one of the things that Scientistt, what we do is we help students studying a science subject to explore careers outside academia. So in this event, we're going to explore what it's like to work as a patent attorney at Kilburn Strode. The talk will cover who the firm are, what kind of work they do in terms of the sector they cover, and also like in terms of the new trainees, the training they get, and the qualifications you get after your training, things like that. Our guests are Farnaz and Iona Hill. We're both trainee patent attorneys, and we'll be hearing from both of them. So they'll be first of all giving an introduction to their background in terms of what they've studied and which university they've studied and what made them go into a career in patent law. We'll then get a presentation from Farnaz about the firm, and then we'll be taking Q&A at the end. I'll encourage everyone to ask any questions during the presentation in the chat if you want to, but we'll also open the floor for Q&A after the presentation. So if you're brave, you can switch on your camera and just ask in person if you want. For now, I'll just leave it to you now.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Hassan. Hello, everybody. My name is Farnaz, and I'm here with my colleague, Ioana. And we hope to give you an overview of what it's like to work as a patent attorney at Kilburn Strode. So my background is in engineering science, and I did my undergraduate and postgraduate degree in engineering science at Oxford, and then went on to become an academic for a good few years before leaving that career and starting to train as a patent attorney. I've been in the profession for just over 3 years now, and doing lots of exams. So I hope that the talk gives you some insight into what it's like to work in the profession. And at the end, Ioana and myself are very happy to answer any questions that you may have. So if I can get this to work. So what we will cover is an overview of who we are, what sort of clients we work with, what we do on a day-to-day basis, how you can qualify, and then, of course, we'll answer questions at the end. So essentially, working at a patent firm, you work in a service industry. So what matters is the people and the services that those people provide. So there's a huge emphasis on people and their well-being and the services that we provide to our clients, which makes us hopefully a good firm to work with, both for people who work there and people who work with us. We, across different IP legal directories which rank legal firms, we're consistently in the top tier, which is great. And something that's interesting about our firm is that, as well as offices in Europe, we also have an office in San Francisco, and I believe we're the first European patent firm to have one. And that's great because we work with a lot of tech in Silicon Valley, and it's just nice to have people there based there, and we can't regularly actually get postings there. So if that's something that's interesting for you, then there's always an opportunity to go and work in San Francisco for a year or two. So we've got some quite exciting clients, really. And I know that people who work with Aston Martin, for example, have been to visit their plant. And I work with a few of these. So there's a good mix of like big established companies like Boeing and Honeywell, and there's some kind of newer trendy ones, and some universities as well, which is always great to work with. And so basically what we do is anything to do with intellectual property, patents, trademarks, and designs. So we basically protect ideas. That's our job. If we look at, again, Aston Martin, if you're into cars, the sort of thing that patents would protect in a car like this would be the software inside the car, the improved coat on the car, the brake system, and for example, I work a lot on software types patents, and then there's some colleagues in mechanical engineering who would, for example, be working on the braking system. And we've also got colleagues who work in trademarks, which is all about protecting slogans and logos and names. So that's a different field to patents, but it's something that we briefly touch on in our studies. There are also design aspects that are protected in a car. For example, a specific design of a tail light or the rim on a wheel is protected through design. So there's a lot of intellectual property in a car. What's a day in the life of a patent attorney like? It can be quite varied. The best thing about it is that it's never the same, to be honest. And yeah, any 2 days can be very different. Sometimes you have meeting with inventors, and that's quite interesting to just have interface and sort of, when they describe what they've done, and then you go away and basically draft a patent application based on that meeting. And we do a lot of filing, obviously, of that patent application in the patent office in the UK, in Europe. And once that's filed, it gets examined, and then we have to respond to examination reports. So there is a lot. There's also obviously a lot of client-facing work where we get instructions to prepare certain responses to exam reports. So there's a lot going on. So the place to start is a university degree, basically in science or engineering, and then the training is actually on the job. You do about 3 months of study, university, during which time you do not work, and then you actually get a diploma. You become part qualified, and you get a diploma in intellectual property law. But essentially, the rest of it is learning on the job. It's quite a steep learning curve, but which makes it quite interesting. And then to become fully qualified, there are exams in the UK, and there are European exams, which are basically spread out from year 2 to year 4. We have a quite interesting scheme for giving back to community through Innovation for All, and it basically donates 1% of the profit to different causes. And over the past few years, there have been numerous charities, organizations that we have supported, and we've always encouraged. We also have a corporate social responsibility day, one day a year, where you can do work in the community, and that counts as work. We have quite a strong diversity and inclusion policy, and I'm actually involved in Diversity and Inclusion Forum, and because it's just good for business and it's good for everybody. And we have a statement which I will actually share with you in a minute. And it's basically, we want people to bring their whole selves to work, And so we make the workplace somewhere where people can be themselves. And we also have different initiatives for encouraging women to network and join the profession, both in the UK, in Europe, and the US. And what we also are doing to help women, which has been helpful to me personally, is role modeling, support flexible working, so that women can balance life and career. And back to the diversity issues, and we've signed a pledge, that Time to Change, and basically we want to end mental health discrimination, and anybody who is involved in recruitment takes unconscious bias and diverse hiring courses, and we selected to handle the UK and European trademark and patent portfolio for Time's Up, which is one of the highest profile brands which have been given global awards in the Oscars. So how can you apply? We are recruiting in sciences, basically, and engineering. So if any of these courses or areas are match your expertise, then please do send in your CVs. And what you need to do, there's no application form. Send a CV and a covering letter explaining why you would like to work as a patent attorney at Kilburn Strode. The closing date, I believe, is the 22nd of October, which is Friday, so not long, but I'm sure there will be time to get there. And we look forward to receiving those. Just to give you an overview of our office, it's actually a bit like Google Office. It's quite trendy and nice. So that's a bridge, and this is the entrance. And we've got a fancy coffee machine in that corner that works with an iPad that I quite like. And various meeting rooms, and yeah, quite a nice, friendly office. Very modern, and that's it really. So if you have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Bernard, for that. That was quite extensive. Could I just start off with a question for both the guests? Could I ask both of you in terms of like what you studied at university, and at what point did you decide that you wanted to go into patent law, and also how did you think your subject related to going into that area as well?
Ioana, do you want to answer that first?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Ioana. So I studied computer science, and then I did a PhD in machine learning at UCL. And that's when I decided to become a patent attorney. I came across a patent in one of my internships, and yeah, I just really liked the idea, and then I looked into the profession, and in terms of how I applied to the job, I would say pretty much every day. Patents are quite technical, so yeah, even if there is a legal framework kind of mapped onto that, all the arguments are technical, so I'm using my technical knowledge pretty much every day. Does that answer your, yeah?
Yeah, I, as I said, I came into patents a bit later in life, and I remember getting a patent granted when I was doing my PhD, and that was my first interaction with a patent attorney. And I thought that he was really clever and understood what I was doing, and you know, without me having to explain a lot. And I thought, oh, that would be nice to read about other people's inventions and not have to do much of the work yourself. And that's why I kind of came back to that idea, and here I am.
Thank you so much. Is there any questions from the audience? Got a very shy audience. I have another question. During the training, what kind of support did both of you get from the recruitment or careers team in terms of the guidance, maybe working in particular sectors or even placements abroad?
Ioana?
Well, you have many different levels of support. One of them would be from your manager. Make sure that you have a diverse enough portfolio of cases so that you gain knowledge in more than one subject area. Then we're also a pretty sociable bunch of trainees. So then we usually get organized into year groups, and we have the year above us usually giving us tips about exams. We get sent to college, study leave, books, tutorials. It's pretty thorough, and you do by the time you sit the exams, you pretty much have everything covered, and there's a lot of support. I would say more so than at university, when you kind of have to revise on your own and find resources yourself. It's pretty prescriptive in a very nice and helpful way. I don't know whether you wanted to mention anything else, Farnaz.
So I've just sat some exams, and yeah, I must say that you get a lot of support, both in terms of study leave, etc., but also people organise tutorials and help and support you in basically preparing for the exams, and you also get sent on exam training courses. You have to train for the exams as well themselves, how to take them, because they're quite peculiar. So yeah, I think there is, all because it's in everybody's interest that you pass, basically. So you get a lot of support for that, and for the training as well. I think by the time you sit the exam, you've done enough work and cases to feel that you kind of, without knowing the law backwards, you kind of, you gain a lot of competency in the job.
Great. Yeah, just to follow up on that, one of the questions we get from students who might not be very aware of how law firms work, can you confirm that everything is paid for by the firm in terms of your exams, your studies, things like that, while you're training?
Yeah, everything is paid for, and yeah, for the 3 months that you go on to do the diploma, you basically, you get paid to study. And,
yeah, and the study leave days are paid as well, obviously, and the materials as well. So pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I have one question in terms of the cover letters. So, for example, it's very difficult to get, from what I've seen, get experience in terms of internships and things like that in patent law firms before you apply for a trainee role. So, in the cover letter, what kind of what would be advice on how to talk about your previous experience outside this field to show your interest to work in patent law?
Ioana, do you want to?
Well, I'm trying to think. I think it would be no different to any other job, just anything that you feel might tie in well with the skills and the job requirements. I'd say probably, since we're talking to people with a scientific background, maybe also emphasize the people side of things, because we very often tend to focus on our technical achievements. So I think also express an interest in the business side of things and in trying to communicate. I think that was a big thing for me, was communication skills as well as technical skills, because I think that that's quite important for the job. And so I remember referencing both, almost placing as much emphasis on communication as on technical skills. So for example, for me, because I was in academia, I had presented at conferences. So I made sure to mention that. Also, the idea of explaining complex scientific notions in very simple terms. So if you've had any sort of, maybe you've helped at university by being a tutor, or again, if you've presented to a non-technical audience, I think those are important things to mention. But also, I'd say try and think of why you want to choose a particular firm, because you can usually get a feeling from the firm's website of the company culture. And I think if you find anything that appeals to you, then I'd make sure to mention that as well. So for me, KNS, it was being down to earth. So I made sure that, everyone being approachable, friendly. So I made sure to mention that.
Fernaz, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I would add probably is that if you've got skills that show you pay attention to detail, that's quite
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
biggie for patent attorney. Leadership skills, anything really, just to show that you're sort of a well-rounded human being. I think I would say. And I can also see that we have a question here about people with advanced degrees starting at entry level. I guess if you haven't, so both Ioana and I came to the job after having completed PhDs, and I think basically it doesn't really make any difference at the beginning if you've never worked as a patent attorney, because everybody's new to the job. Is basically framing things within a science, within legal framework. What I would say is that because of your experience or you're likely to have developed certain skills during a PhD or during previous career more than somebody who probably doesn't have a PhD, and so maybe in terms of career progression after you're qualified, it will most likely be quicker progression if you have skills that others haven't yet developed. But in terms of like entry level, I think everybody basically starts in the same place if you've never worked as a patent attorney. Ioana, do you think anything else on that? Do you think?
No, I think that covers it all. Yeah, I'd say it's maybe you can develop yourself professionally as a specialist in one area, which some patent attorneys don't necessarily do. So, for example, I'm very interested in AI patents, and so I've been consistently working with like Google and other big clients on AI patents. And I'd say, even though I'm not qualified, I am seeing how I'm starting to develop a specialism. So I can see myself in 5 years' time as a patent attorney with a clear focus on AI patents. But it's again, if you decide that that's not what you want to do, you could just as well not express an interest in something. It's entirely optional, but it is there for you if you're still interested in the topic of your PhD, for example.
Yeah.
Great.
I think we've got a question here about what do you or did you at first find hardest part of the role? Difficult question. I guess it's quite a steep learning curve when you first start because it's very new. For me, the hardest part, to be honest, has been the exams, because they're the sort of exams that you do fail, and you kind of have to be quite resilient and learn that it's a bit like a driving test, I guess, because I failed my driving test once, and so I think that's for me been the hardest. But Ioana, you haven't done any?
I'd say exams mainly because, again, science background and then law exams, it's a bit of a difference. So yeah, just being used to memorizing more case law and writing essays instead of solving problems. But equally, everyone in the profession's in the same boat, and everyone's tends to qualify. So they're all surmountable difficulties, I would say.
Yeah, thank you so much for both of that. I think that's all the questions we have. I think we're towards an end. So as a bit of advice as well, as part of your cover letter after this, you can find the job in the job section of Scientistt. You can find all the description. And as Fernaz mentioned, the deadline is this Friday, this week, the 22nd October. And all you need is a cover letter and your CV. And I would just give a bit of advice that in your cover letter, you can mention that you've attended this event and you found a bit of information about Kilburn and you've got inspiration from the trainees and things like that. So essentially anything to just make your cover letter stand out rather than be generic. And this event is also going to be on the platform as a recorded video, so you can go back and see some of the information Farnaz shared during the presentation and maybe use that as part of your cover letter as well. Thank you so much, both Farnaz and Iona, for your time. And yeah, best of luck everyone applying for the role.
Thank you very much, Hassan.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.